Good evening, crew. Hope you guys are super well and had a great day today. Thanks so much again for joining me tonight. Tonight, we're chatting all about the actual product of the IRP. So, again, we have been spruiking and talking about changing the way we do things within the IRP. So, if you have heard me talk about this before, you would know only too well what we're looking for. But what I'd really love to encourage you guys to do tonight is talk to me and let me know how you currently do things around the IRP. Hey, Tegan. Hey, guys. Nice to see you. Thanks so much for joining. Let us know who's on, and we're going to be able to tailor our session just for you guys. So if you haven't met me before, my name is Kell Bell. I'm a CAFS coach and mentor. I have over 16 years of experience in the CAFS classroom, and I've been there and done it all with IRPs. I now support community and family studies teachers like you to make a really big impact on your CAFS crew, to protect your time and your wellbeing in the process. And part of that is really looking at the IRP. And look, the IRP is worth up to 20% as a NESA assessment. So we have to look at what our percentage is and work out whether the product needs a bit of a shake-up and the way we actually get our kids to bring that product together. So as I mentioned, NESA state that our assessment task is mandatory. So it's mandatory across New South Wales. That's a given. So we have to do the IRP. It's part of our course. We have to do it. What they also stipulate is in our assessment and reporting guidelines, it is up to 20%. So it's worth up to 20% of school-based assessment tasks. So that means we can actually make it worth, 10, 15, 20% of our internal or our school-based assessment for our kids. Now, the CAFS IRP is not assessed by NESA like our PIPs, like our major works. It's assessed internally by you guys, by CAFS teachers. You guys are the experts in our area. You guys are going to be the ones who are going to actually assess this particular assessment task. So it's a given. We have to do it. But what we can really do is start to work out a better way of doing things, a more strategic, a more purposeful way to have this IRP running in our class. So I've spoken about the process. Tonight, we're going to speak about the actual product, the product that the kids put together as a result of what they've done within research methodology. So let me know at the moment what you're currently doing. So what are you getting the kids to actually hand in as their assessment task? So at the end of the process, at the end of doing the IRP, what are you actually getting the kids to hand in as their submission? And I suppose essentially, what are you marking? Because many of us are still marking it like we did in the old life management days. And look, many of us haven't even taught life management. Some of you guys weren't even born in the life management days. Let's put it that way. I was, so I didn't actually teach life management. It had changed to CAFS in 2002, and I was at uni. So we had CAFS just start when I was at university. So fresh-faced 24-year-old, 23-year-old coming out of uni, and I was given a CAFS class. I had no idea what I was doing. I had the syllabus to rely on. I had the textbook, and I had all these past IRPs, but they looked like about that thick. They were these big, massive documents because they were taken from the old life management course, which then became CAFS. So let me know if that's you. If you taught the life management course, just write life management in the chat if you've been around for a little while. So many of our colleagues who are in their 20th year and beyond have taught the old life management course. And back then, it was literally this big, massive document that the kids often would print off, Officeworks or whatever printing company was around at the time, and they would then bind it, and that would be their submission. That would be the actual product that they would hand in to their teacher. Now, I'm not sure if you guys have seen IRPs like that, but you would be absolutely shocked if you haven't seen them. Very lengthy. Every single part was assessed all the way from the introduction, all the way through to the appendix. And it was very, very lengthy. Puts a lot of stress on us, a lot of stress on the kids. And often it was a bit of a bone of contention that the kids would drop the course because of this elusive IRP that would come up. They would talk to our careers advisors and say, look, I don't think I'm going to actually keep CAFS because of their IRP. Now, I want to say to you guys right now, up front, it doesn't have to be that way. And, fast forward 20 odd years, we've really come a long way in CAFS, and it doesn't have to be like that. And I'm still not sure why schools are still functioning like that across New South Wales, because I know there are plenty. There are plenty of CAFS teachers who are still slogging away, still getting the kids to do every single part because they just think they have to. But I'm here to remind you guys tonight that you don't have to get the kids to assess or to hand in for their assessment every single section. They have to know the process. They have to know those 3 processes about, the planning part of it, the conducting the research, and then the analysing part. But they don't actually have to submit every single section. So that's one big thing for tonight. Don't get the kids to submit every single part of that assessment task. It is going to save you hours upon hours of time if you just get the kids to actually hand in the really main parts of their assessment task, of the IRP itself. So let's kind of unpack what IRP stands for. So Independent Research Project, very straightforward. And I think a lot of us still think that because it's, with the word independence in there, that we actually have to get the kids to do every single part by themselves. All the sections are actually submitted. Now, it's not the case. Part of that process is actually going through the steps, but they don't have to actually hand that in. So what I would love for you guys to be thinking about is what that might look like for you guys this year. So when you take Year 12 for the first time, or you take them into Term 4, your 11s into Term 4, I want you guys to start to look at what this assessment might really be like when you start looking at it with your kids. So as I mentioned, every single part, hey Kiara, every single part doesn't have to be assessed. So again, up to 20% of the weighting has to be assessed. The kids have to be assessed independently, as the IRP tells us. But what they're really being assessed on are those 2 key outcomes, outcome 4.1 and outcome 4.2. And what those really tell us is the kids justifying their opinion, they're validating their results, they're backing it up, and then they're also presenting it in, logical form, that type of thing. Quite a generic kind of outcome, that one. So making sure the kids are actually doing and actually handing in what those outcomes tell us to do. Now, the next thing I want to get you guys to think about is those 3 main, 3 main parts of the IRP. So we have the IRP plan, we have the IRP diary, and we have the IRP product itself. Those 3 main things, back in the days when I first started teaching CAFS, would get the kids to hand each of those in. We would get the kids to submit each of those, and we would mark each of those. Now, let's have a think about that 20% weighting, or up to 20% weighting, and many schools make it worth about 20%. They kind of go to that maximum. If we have our, say, diary worth like a measly 2.1 or 2.5%, or we have our, IRP plan worth 5%, whatever it might be, it then doesn't equate to that much if we're then making the actual product only worth, say, 10%. So those 3 things need to be part of the process of doing the IRP, but they don't have to be accessible items. So I want you guys to write that down straight away. One thing you can do straight away is strip that right back. Let's face it, most of the kids fake their diary. And let me know and give me an emoji if that, have you ever found some of your kids do that? So give us a bit of a wave and let us know if your kids have done that in the past. They kind of look like they're doing their diary, and you can kind of see what they're doing, but what they tend to then hand in is completely fake. They make it up as they go. It's pretty kind of straightforward that many of our kids are making it up. They're not really capturing what they're doing, their thoughts, feelings, issues, and opinions around that actual diary. So Kiara saying, yep, seen it before. And look, I've been around CAFS for a while, 16 years in the classroom. I've had lots of kids take CAFS. I've had CAFS every single year from 2004 all the way through to 2020 in July when I left the classroom. So I know that, it happens a lot. The other part is the plan. So the plan is just part of the process. The kids are kind of documenting what they hope to achieve, what they hope to focus on, how it links to CAFS. And remember last time we spoke about that, it has to link to the course. Now, these fluffy, questions or these fluffy hypotheses where we look at drink driving, teenage pregnancy, smoking, divorce, all those sorts of things, they are loosely linked to the CAFS course, but they're not key concepts from the CAFS course. So a lot of the kids kind of do this plan, and then that pretty much goes nowhere. What we really want to focus on here is the actual product itself. So yes, the plan, yes, the diary needs to be part of the process, but we don't have to assess it. It's not an assessable item. Again, another thing you guys can do is literally cut that out of your assessment tasks. To me, it's not really reflective of the outcomes. And it's also, in my opinion, a big fat waste of time, because we're just kind of giving marks for not really much value. What we really want to focus on is that process, the actual process the kids have undertaken in their research. So what they're doing for their research methodologies, what they've chosen, how they're going to do that, how that's then going to link to research, how they're going to really reflect, things like reliability, validity, analysis, discussion, and those recommendations that they might make as a result of their research. So the next thing I want to talk about is, and we've kind of alluded to this, is the actual length of it. Again, many CAFS teachers think that our kids have to literally submit from introduction to appendix. The kids have to know that there's these parts of the process, the research process. And if we were real researchers out in the field, many of us have colleagues that are at universities who are academics, lecturers, researchers. They're getting up to $1 million, up to $500,000, $600,000 to conduct research across our country. Now, we're kind of doing a very, very small, kind of like little mini part of that process. And so we kind of show the kids that there's this introduction. They then go through, the main literature review, like a reflection on the main data or things that have been uncovered in that main area. We then kind of go through the methodology section where the kids prove and show us what research methods they've done. We then kind of look at the results and then analysis and discussion, conclusion, and then finally recommendations that the kids might have for further research. And on top of that, we have this bibliography and we have our appendix. Now, our IRP isn't a PIP, and I'm going to say that for the next 2 weeks and beyond. Our IRP is not a PIP. It's not our life management IRP. It's not like how it used to be, okay? It really needs to be stripped right back to really focus on those two outcomes, outcome 4.1 and outcome 4.2. So in terms of the process, what that looks like, I'm going to talk about this more tomorrow night in my webinar. So if you're keen and if you've joined, tomorrow night I'm hosting a webinar for you guys to unpack all of these details further and to show you a bit more about how this looks like on the ground. So tonight and the last couple of nights, we've been speaking about the why. Why are we changing it? Why are we actually doing it like this? Tomorrow night, I unpack a little bit about the how. How does this look on the ground? And if you want to know really right now how that looks, you can join us in Strategic Approaches to the IRP. So Strategic Approaches to the IRP was my very first course when I left the classroom, because I knew teachers needed and were craving for something like this, because we were spending way too much time on marking, way too much stress in that classroom, actually getting the kids to do every single part of that process. So if you'd like to join us, tomorrow night, my webinar is hosted at thelearnnet.com/IRP success. You'll get the link there and you'll get all the details for tomorrow night, an hour of power with me, where we dive into more about what this looks like on the ground. But for us tonight, we're really thinking about that actual product, what it looks like at the end. So we've spoken about the percentages. We've spoken about the actual physical size of it. Like, it doesn't have to be like a 3,000-word essay. It's not a thesis. It's not like your master's. I know for my master's in education and leadership, some of our essays are like 3,000 to 6,000 words. It is definitely not like that. It is a school assessment. It's marked by us internally, and we need to strip it right back so our kids feel more confident. They feel a lot more comfortable taking our course, and we're not losing kids because of this. And I'd love to hear from you guys if that's been a bit of a challenge. Just let us know and write challenge in the chat, and have it. Let us kind of know what some of those challenges have been around your kids, because I know this is often something that comes up. at the end of year 11, the kids want to drop because they are scared about the IRP. They see past IRPs and they go, holy crap, I can't do that. I have a PIP, or I've got another major work in art, I've got my dance major, I've got my DT project, I cannot do it. And that's often what happens with our kids. They drop it because of that IRP. So I'm telling you, please strip it right back. Let's start getting back to the crux of it, of what those two outcomes actually say. So in terms of the actual product itself, and I think Kiara just popped in Instagram and written down time management is a massive issue for our kids. And they have so many, they have so many balls in the air. They have work. They're trying really hard to balance everything that they've got in their lives. Add this on top of it, it then creates a lot of stress and a lot of pressure. And I would have lots of meltdowns. You know, you guys heard me last night. If you're on, we had library lessons in my first few years of teaching CAFS. And my kids would literally have a meltdown sitting next to me saying, I haven't started. I don't know where to start. I don't know what my topic is. You know, I feel so overwhelmed. Miss, can you help me? It doesn't have to be like that. And tomorrow night, I'll show you what that process looks like in terms of on the ground in the classroom. But it is about the kids working together and you facilitating that process and not having 25 IRPs happening in your classroom, but having one main centered IRP that you guys are working on as a team. So pop in the chat and let me know if that sounds awesome to you. So give me an emoji, like a high five, or sounds awesome, because I think once we start looking at the IRP like this, it makes so much sense. I mean, you know, why didn't we think of this years and years ago? And look, you know, like you guys, you're stuck. You didn't know this is how it could be. So, you know, over the last 2 years, 250 teachers, over 250 teachers have taken strategic approaches to the IRP because they're curious to see what this looks like. They want the tools. They kind of know why now, and obviously sharing this sort of stuff with you guys, they know why this is important. But, hey, Loz, but they want to see what it really looks like on the ground. So in strategic approaches to the IRP, I show you that. So over the next couple of days, we talk about the why. Why is it so important to strip this right back? A, it's for us. B, it's for the kids, but it's also really getting back to the outcomes as well. And I provide all the templates, the tools, the scaffolds, the know-how, and I show you how to actually implement into your classroom straight away. So you guys can feel so much more confident and calm, and your kids are calm for next term. Because look, they're young, like they're still young, coming from year 11, going straight into the IRP. And many of us do it because it's something that we don't want to kind of drag on. You can get your marking done, like Jed said last night, in term 4. You don't have to take those IRPs home anymore. I'm giving you that permission. You don't have to take those IRPs home anymore. You can actually relax and have that holidays like you deserve. And I think this is something that we really need to be thinking about, of what it could look like in our classrooms. And, you know, I hear lots of teachers say, oh, it won't work for my kids. They're very, you know, independent workers. They're high flyers. Please trust me on this. And trust me when I say this, that kids who do well will do well in this teacher facilitated IRP as well. It will allow that tail. It will allow those really, those kids that really struggle often to really lift and to have them really confident and supported in this process. And at the end of the day, the kids are still assessed on the parts that really matter, not the plan, not the diary, not that, you know, not that appendix that is kind of worth nothing, really on those key things. And tomorrow night, I kind of show you what that might look like, but talking about things like the analysis, discussion, conclusion, methodologies possibly, and then recommendations. They're the main things that really link back to the IRP outcomes, or the outcomes for research methodology. So pop in the chat space and let me know if you have any questions on the actual product and how that might look. Now, teaching this sort of thing over the last 2 years, for some of you, has really kind of opened up so many different ideas of what you can also do to be more strategic in your CAFS classroom, especially for research methodology. And many teachers have said to me that, Kell, this is a game changer. This is a career changer for me. You know, you have made my term 4 so much more enjoyable. It's brought our class together as a group. I can see that cohesiveness. It's then really lifted our results coming into term 1 and throughout the HSE course, because the kids feel super, super confident. They also are able to build really good relationships because they're a research team. They're working together towards the same process, towards the same product, but they're only assessed on parts individually. So that individual part, that independent part, is just marked for themselves. So I kind of want to explain very quickly before we finish up, the actual product isn't a group task. I'll say it again because many teachers confuse it like this. The IRP product, when you do a teacher-facilitated IRP, is not a group assessment. It's not. It's the process that the kids take on. It's the research teamwork, the actual research teams, and the kids doing parts together that allows this IRP to be facilitated. Now, what the kids get marked on is their independent work within the analysis, discussion, and conclusion, their methodologies, and their recommendations. And that's kind of what I've been sharing with you guys about what to assess. So literally 2 sections. You might have one part with like 15 marks, the main part, analysis, discussion, conclusion. You might have you might even have the methodologies within that section, recommendations and conclusion together. So maybe less marks, maybe 5 marks for that. Literature review. I know that literature review is a pain. Let me know if it's a pain. Pop your hand up and say, yep, it's a pain. You don't have to assess it. It's not related to the outcomes. The kids stress about it. They cannot write a paper like that. It's not an academic paper. And yes, the kids need to know what a literature review is. They have to be part of the process, but they can do that in year 11 and get the good kids in your class who are good writers to do the literature review. Anyway, I don't want to kind of go into too much more detail to kind of have all this confusion and you guys, I'm pretty sure there's probably a few little brain explosions happening, but I think here I completely agree. Literature reviews are like back at uni. They're kind of uni days. So kids who like writing like that will succeed. Most of our kids, unfortunately, can't write like that, and it's not expected. In the old life management course, it was like that. Every single part was assessed. The kids had to do it, and they had to do it alone. They had to do it by themselves. And the IRP is not like that in my way, in my version. And as soon as I started to do that, like I've shared with you guys, it had a massive difference on the relationships within our class. It had a massive difference on the stress of the kids. You could just feel them. They're like, okay, this IRP looks a little bit different to what our friends at other schools are doing or what we've seen our sister do. But also, and not more importantly, because I would never kind of discount that, but for us, I know you guys are tired. I know that you're stressed to the max. I know that things are tough. And the last 3 years have really shown us that things are tough in education. And I feel so much for you guys that there's so much going on. This literally just takes something off your plate to just assess the parts, the product that is really linked to the outcomes, not everything else. So pop in the chat space and let me know if you have any questions at all. I'll stay on for a couple of minutes to answer those. But if you'd like to know more, and obviously we can speak face-to-face rather than through Instagram or Facebook, tomorrow night I'm hosting a webinar for you guys. And I can't wait to share with you all the ins and outs of how to strategically approach the IRP to get your time, your energy, and protect your wellbeing. So if you'd like to learn more about the webinar and what's happening, you can head over to my website, thelearnet.com/IRP success to register, pop your details in, and then I'll send you all the links for my Zoom room tomorrow night. And look, this is going to be awesome. I know it's going to make a huge difference on your CAFS career, not just now, but from every year beyond this point, but also help your kids again every year. So thanks so much for joining me tonight, guys. Thanks so much. Thanks, Kiara. Again, if you have any questions, just send me a DM. You know where to find me, or shoot me an email. And I can't wait to see you guys tomorrow night on our webinar. Take care, guys. Have a great night. See you, team.